broken Kanu's way, and Dahui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?
Hello Arsenal fans, and welcome back to a new episode of Can You Believe It, an Arsenal podcast. And I am glad to be reporting to you with another win and talking about that win today. A 3-1 away win to Southampton, who are a good side these days, and they've put up stern tests against some of the better sides in the league, and they gave us a stern test yesterday, but we performed well and got the result, and it was a really encouraging performance. So the rundown is, I'll talk obviously about the lineup and some of the performances and the start we made. Obviously conceded the goal, but didn't let our heads go down and then came back into it and holding on to a great win, really. And obviously I'll answer some listener questions at the end. So let's get into it. The team lineup for this game was Bernd Leno in goal, Bellerin back at right back. He was captain on the day because Aubameyang is still missing for personal reasons. So a quick mention about that is I wish Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang all the best. Hopefully whatever he's going through can be resolved, and obviously all the Arsenal fans are completely behind him. So back to the lineup. Bellerin was at right back. Rob Holding and David Luiz were the two centre-backs, and Cedric was at left-back, so no Maitland-Niles at left-back this time. It was Cedric who went there. Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka in midfield, building a partnership between them, and then Bukayo Saka, Emil Smith-Rowe, Nicolas Pepe on the left, not Gabriel Martinelli, and Alexandre Lacazette up front. So I think the big thing with the team selection was no Tierney again. He missed the cup game, and there was some doubt he would play this game, and he missed this game as well. So he was out. Who would replace him? It was Cedric, and I think the performance from Cedric was completely justified with his selection. He had a weird game in terms of pass completion, because his pass completion was only about 56%, so he only made 24 out of 43 passes. But some of the passes he made were actually really good, and he just looks like a very balanced fullback. And yes, he was playing on a side where he can't really use his stronger foot as well, but he done some really good things. He had a really nice shot that went just wide in the first half, and he was a very good, solid presence. And I think there are some questions about Cedric later. But he had a good performance and justified being at left back. And obviously the other one is Nicolas Pepe, who's replaced Aubameyang, but he played on the left and not the right. Now, I tweeted before the game that I didn't want Bukayo Saka to be moved to the left to accommodate Nicolas Pepe, because I think Saka has made that right midfield role his own. And I think the consistency he has shown from that role, he should keep playing there. And Pepe should play the left wing role, which is basically the one that Aubameyang plays, or Martinelli, where you're allowed in the centre a bit more, and Pepe obviously wants to cut in on the centre a lot. And yes, I know Pepe is very one-footed, but this allowed him to get into the game more and be closer to players like Lacazette and Cedric, who I thought he had actually a very good partnership with. So that was good for him, from him. But the game started, and we started the game well, and we had a really big chance with Lacazette. He was played through by Granit Xhaka. Lacazette was up for a goal. It was a good save from McCarthy, but when Lacazette is through on goal, you would expect him to do a bit better than he did. And I think if this was 2 months ago, I think our heads would have dropped, and we would have really found it tough to create that good of a chance again. But the form we're in and the system that we're now playing allows us to create a bit more than just the one or two odd chances a game. So it was a bad miss from Lacazette, and Southampton basically almost immediately go up the other end to score. Now, it was from a corner. It was a well-worked corner. It was one that was done from the training ground into Stuart Armstrong, who, even apart from his goal, had a really good performance for Southampton. And he volleys it in. Leno nearly saves it. It would have been an absolutely outstanding save if he did. But it was a great finish. It was really lashed in, and we were 1-0 behind. And obviously, when you've played Southampton on the weekend like we did and lost in the FA Cup, you're starting to worry that more of the same is going to happen. And I think the big difference between that and yesterday's performance was just the players on the pitch. We had much more quality on the pitch. It didn't take long for us to equalise. So obviously Stuart Armstrong scored within 3 minutes, and then Nicolas Pepe equalised in the 8th minute. And it was a really nice pass from Granit Xhaka into Pepe. Granit Xhaka doesn't really usually play these final third passes, and he was really good on the day as well, Xhaka. And he plays a really nice ball to Nicolas Pepe, who finishes quite well. It sort of looked like he scuffed the shot, maybe hit it into the ground, but there's no complaints. I mean, Mesut Ozil was doing that for ages, and Arsenal fans would go absolutely crazy saying he created a new technique. So it was a great finish from Nicolas Pepe, and it was 1-1. And I thought the first 25 minutes of the Southampton performance, we were very, very good. I think we were pressing really well. We weren't allowing Southampton any time to play out from the back. And Arsenal are not notorious for being a very good pressing side, so it was encouraging to see. Now, for the first 25 minutes, we'd done it well, and then Southampton started building into the game. They had a few chances. I think Ings had a really good header. Actually, it may have been Shea Adams. One of the two had a really good header that was well saved by Bernd Leno. They had a couple more chances, and you thought, okay, Arsenal are ending the half pretty poorly and not as well as you'd think. But then we get a second goal before half-time, and it was a great through ball from Alexandre Lacazette. What I like about it is he plays the ball first time to Saka, which then forces panic within the Southampton defence, which allows Alex McCarthy to come out and try and get the ball. He doesn't. Saka goes past him and finishes it first time with his weaker foot. And it was a fantastic goal, and it's from a man who's adding end product into his game. He's now got 5 goals this season in the Premier League, which is fantastic at the age of 19. And I think he's got more goals than all the other teenagers in the Premier League combined. So I think he's really, really proving to be a fantastic player for Arsenal this season. And credit Lacazette. I think this is the difference between Arsenal now and Arsenal a few weeks ago, is that Lacazette doesn't have to travel to the halfway line to get the ball and do this hold-up play, because Lacazette can do it. He is an intelligent player and can feed players through, but you need bodies around him, and that's why Lacazette always worked very well with someone like Aaron Ramsey. Aaron Ramsey done very well with Lacazette, and it was mainly because Ramsey would be close to him and run on beyond him. It was something Lacazette could work with. And I mean, even if you think of the Ozil goal against Liverpool, the walking in a winter wonderland goal, which Lacazette feeds into Mesut Ozil, and because Ozil has combined with him very well and he's really close to him. So Lacazette does need bodies around him to be just as effective, and I thought he had a good game again against Southampton. So that was the end of the half, and we finished with 5 shots, 3 on target. Not as many as Southampton. Southampton had 8, but they weren't big chances. We had 3 big chances. Southampton had 0. So we finished the half well, and came out in the second half. And once again, we started the half well. We didn't allow Southampton to come back out at us, and we produced some good chances again in the second half and kept it tight. We didn't allow Southampton to get any key chances. I think the only one that Southampton really had was a Walcott chance, which had a really good shot at Bernd Leno, but Leno saved it quite comfortably. And then we got a third goal, and it was basically game over. So it was during the period of play where Pepe was just about to be substituted, but then Smith Rowe went down. Pepe was booked for time wasting because he was going off. But then Pepe didn't go off. They changed the substitution to take Smith Rowe off and bring Willian on. So I don't know why the yellow card wasn't rescinded at this point. And then a minute later, Alexandre Lacazette scores. And it was a really nice pass from Cedric into Bukayo Saka. He does a really nice crossfield pass to Saka, who controls it and the first time passes it to Lacazette with his weaker foot again. Both his assist and his goal in this game from Saka was his weaker foot. And Lacazette finishes it really well. And it's another goal for Lacazette. He's in really good form at the moment. And I think I'm encouraged by how he's performing. He's our top scorer this season. And I think he's needed that. And just having players around him has improved on him greatly, so I'm glad for that. He's done really well with what he's been given, so credit to him. Really, that was that. We didn't really have any more chances after this. Southampton had a free kick with Ward-Prowse, which is always going to be threatening, and Leno makes a good save from it as well. And that was that, full-time whistle, and Arsenal had won 3-1, and it currently takes us to 8th in the league, which is really good. We are now on a really good run of form. I think only Manchester City and Manchester United have better form than us at the moment. Man City have won their last 5 and Man United have the exact same as us, have won 4 and drawn 1. So it is a really good recovery from where we were at to where we are now. And we've scored more in the last 5 games than we did in all the previous games. It's just a much bigger improvement from the side, and it was really badly needed. And I want to talk about some performances here. I'll briefly mention Granit Xhaka and Cedric, who performed very well. Xhaka has had a really good partnership with Partey, and I think he's made him better just being alongside him. Now, I'm not Granit Xhaka's biggest fan. I think eventually Arsenal need to upgrade on him, but even I can recognise that he's probably the second best central midfielder we have alongside Thomas Partey, and I think they are very balanced between each other. So Arsenal have to keep them as a partnership. It's important to build partnerships within the team, and you had one going with Rob Holding and Gabriel. I know Gabriel has dropped out ever since now. You've got Saka, Smith Rowe and Lacazette, that kind of trio. And now it seems like you've got a partnership between Partey and Xhaka in the centre of midfield, and Partey's been really good since he's come in. I think what I like about Partey the most is his one-touch passing, and I think that's been infected into the other players as well, because Xhaka did it much more in this game than he has done previously, and it's not slowing down the game. And I think Arsenal and most teams play better when they play quick and at a high tempo, and we certainly did for large parts of the game yesterday. So that was encouraging. It was a really good performance from Granit Xhaka. On SofaScore here, he actually got the man of the match with an 8.0 rating, which I think I would give Saka the man of the match, but Granit Xhaka was definitely in the best 4 players. Cedric again was really solid at left back, and I think he probably now has a justification when Tierney returns to probably start at right back for the foreseeable future. I think Bellerin, in terms of defensive contribution, I think he's dropped off a lot. And I think Cedric is a bit more solid in terms of his defensive contribution. I think Bellerin is a bit underrated when he goes forward. But I think you played players who are in best form, and I think at this present moment in time, Cedric is in best form than Hector Bellerin. So that's a selection dilemma for Mikel Arteta. And then the 2 wingers on the day, Bukayo Saka and Nicolas Pepe. Let's talk about Pepe first. He's come with a lot of justified stick recently, and it's been deserved because his performances haven't been good enough. Now, Arteta has started him on the left more than Emery ever did. Emery never started him on the left. He only ever started him on the right, or in his first start for Arsenal, started him as a striker against Liverpool. But I think playing him on the left actually works, because I think the way we set up on the left is allowing Pepe to be more central than he would be on the right. I think on the right, he's been asked to hug the touchline a lot, and he has to come on his left. He doesn't like using his right foot at all. He is a very important player in terms of having to get on that left foot, but when he's on the left, it is a bit of a tricky one in terms of what does he do. And I thought he had a very good game, and there were some dribbles that he done yesterday which I just haven't seen from him for ages, and you just see a little hint of confidence coming back. He seems like one of those confidence players. And listen, I said recently that I would sell Pepe because I think he's one of the only players that can contribute to some funds. And yes, I'm not completely turned on him staying at Arsenal and him completely working out, but I think Arsenal have a chance now with him to at least build him some form. Again, if Aubameyang is now out, I would start Pepe on the left and give him a run of games. A run of games which he's now completely justified him getting because of his performance against Southampton yesterday. Yes, he wasn't that good in the FA Cup game on the weekend, but I think he was better than Willian, and Willian is now probably fourth choice winger, and I think Pepe's ahead of him. Pepe at least looks dangerous. I don't think Willian does. So it was a good performance for Pepe. He took his goal really well, and all in all looked good on the left, and I think Arteta would be pleased, and he was completely justified with the selection and not starting Martinelli ahead of him, which I think a lot of people, including myself, would have predicted. And the last one is Bukayo Saka, and I mean, what more can I add about him as a player? Last season he was really good, and you could see that he was mature, he was confident, he could beat players, but he was also very good and very dangerous at crossing, passing. He was just a danger all out, but he's starting to add end product to his game now. Like I said, 5 goals in the Premier League this season, which for a 19-year-old is pretty fantastic. And the last Arsenal teenager to score 5 or more goals for Arsenal in the Premier League was Nicolas Anelka. So that's some really special company to be with. I think he's probably our player of the season, and make no mistake, I think that's fantastic that a young player has come in and become our player of the season. Obviously, it speaks to other players not being as good, but I think he's been our player of the season, and he just looks miles ahead of everyone, and that's just encouraging for us in the long run. And I'm just so happy with him and how well he's done at Arsenal. So, and obviously we signed him to that new deal, which was crucial now when you think about it, and he's got a really good relationship with Smith Rowe. Now that we've got Martin Ødegaard in as well, it's a very encouraging time for us going forward, and hopefully now Saka can be the cornerstone of this new Arsenal. And one final praise, I want to praise Mikel Arteta for a bit, because he got pelters before the Chelsea game, and it looked like, and I said it myself, that he was going to lose his job, and probably justified to lose his job, but he's turned it around. He's gone back to basics, if you will, in terms of a 4-2-3-1. He started with that when he came into Arsenal and then changed to a back 3, and it didn't really work as well as the 4-2-3-1. I'm not saying the 4-2-3-1 was revolutionary, but it was at least a bit more balanced and we looked a bit better going forward. But I think Arteta saw our defence and was a bit worried, so he changed it to a back 3. And now Arsenal are looking a bit better going forward and a bit tighter at the back. So it's encouraging, and Arteta deserves the praise, and I think if he continues, then Arsenal can end the season very well. Obviously, there's still a long way to go because we have Manchester United, Wolves, Villa and Leeds soon. And they are big games and we're going to have a tough run in, but hopefully we can take this momentum with us and really do well from now on. So briefly, before I get into the listener questions, and there's quite a few from you guys, so thank you for all your questions. I want to talk about Martin Ødegaard, and I'm pretty proud of this one because last week I was asked a question, who would I want realistically to join in January and who would I want in the summer? And I said in January I wanted Martin Ødegaard because I thought if he was available for loan, which he was, that he could come in and be that number 10, but also be creative enough that he could come in and potentially play with Smith Rowe. And now he's here and now he's our new signing, our new number 11, and I'm so excited to see him play for Arsenal, and he's a real talent, and obviously we've only got him for 6 months, but hopefully we can have him for longer. He's got some of the best passes you'll see. I mean, there was a pass last year for Sociedad, which was from really deep, and he passed basically near to the goalkeeper and got a really good assist. He was probably one of the best players before he got his injury last season in La Liga. So it's encouraging. I don't think he'll make the Man United game this weekend, but he's going to be an option for us, and it will at least prevent us from using Willian as a number 10 and allow us to use an actual good replacement for Emile Smith Rowe if he was to go down with an injury. It's just making Arsenal a bit more fun again, and that's all you want from a signing. So welcome Martin Ødegaard, and hopefully he does really well at Arsenal. Right, so time for listener questions, and I put a tweet out every time before the podcast, the day before usually, and it's usually on my Twitter at AFCMet. So if you want to ask any questions to me, please keep a lookout on my Twitter feed. So the first question is at Felix Fleming 4, and he asks thoughts on different combinations for the front four with the imminent arrival of Ødegaard. So that's obviously confirmed now, it's a confirmed transfer, but we've got some more questions along those lines. At Alex AFC, he asked 2 questions, but I'll take the Ødegaard one now, and he asked what your ideal front four with everyone fit plus Ødegaard. And there was one from at T Mossy H, and he asks, do you think Ødegaard and ESR can play together? So, like I mentioned just very briefly before the questions, Ødegaard can play off the right, and I know Bukayo Saka has been fantastic from the right. It is one to potentially think about if Ødegaard would come in on the right and maybe Saka on the left, or maybe Smith Rowe on the left. It doesn't matter to me. I think they can play well together. Good players can tend to play well together. Although I think my front four would still be Saka on the right, Smith Rowe at 10, Aubameyang on the left, Lacazette up front. I think I toyed with the idea of Ødegaard being one of the wide players, but I think for now, I think Smith Rowe deserves his place, and it would be incredibly harsh for him to be dropped. I think Smith Rowe, unless he gets an injury or needs to be rotated, I think Smith Rowe keeps the place. And when Ødegaard comes in, I'm sure he's going to do fantastic, and I'm sure there will be a battle. Competition for places is good. I think it will be a really exciting signing. If Smith Rowe is now injured, obviously he went off yesterday, hopefully he's not out for too long, then Ødegaard is the obvious replacement, and hopefully he can strike up a good relationship like Smith Rowe has with the others. So it is an interesting signing, and I'm really excited to see how it works. It at least allows us to have more quality in the side and on the bench as well, because, I mean, even if you look at yesterday, our bench was Matt Ryan, Gabriel, Chambers, El Neni, Maitland-Niles, Willock, Gabriel Martinelli, Nketiah and Willian. And I mean, out of all just the players there, only really Martinelli is the real exciting one. So it will at least add some difference on the bench now, at least. But it is on him now to play his way in the side. Hopefully we can sign him in the summer and improve our creativity that way, because I think we still do need a creative player in summer. Obviously, Ødegaard is only in on loan, and he would be my first choice in the summer now if he performs well, because then you know the player, you know how he's integrated into the side, you've integrated him 6 months early, so he's a top player, a top prospect, one of the best in the world in terms of young players. So getting him in the summer would be fantastic on a permanent deal. But let's just see how he does for the next 6 months. So thanks for your questions, guys. And I'll take the other question from Alex AFC. And he asks, again, do you think there is room for Chambers in this side? Probably not, because I think Rob Holding's done well. I don't think he's an incredible centre-back, Rob Holding, but I think he's done well. Chambers is best at right centre-back, and that's where Holding's been playing. I think Callum Chambers is probably best used at the moment as second choice, so as a second choice centre-back, at right centre-back. But that may change when Pablo Mari comes back and Gabriel comes back as well. So there is some time to give Chambers, but I don't think he'll be a lot. I think in the summer, I think he might be one of the players sold, but again, he's a homegrown player, so it's difficult. I think next season we can maybe register Emile Smith-Rowe as a homegrown player, so that may sway our thinking in terms of Chambers, but I think for now, Callum Chambers probably doesn't get as much game time as he needs, and there's probably not room for him in this side. So 2 questions from talking about where we will finish, and it's one's from @Tita Nori, and they ask, where will we finish? How far will we go in the Europa? And from @Orbacracy, great name, where do I think Arsenal will get top 4, or is top 6 more realistic? I still think top 6 is maybe a bit far away. There's still a few teams we have to jump before we get there. Now, yes, we're 8th place, but the teams above us are Everton, Tottenham, Liverpool, West Ham, Leicester, Man United, Man City. Out of all the teams I just named, only West Ham have played the same amount of games as us. Everton have 3 games in hand on us. Tottenham have 2, and Liverpool have 1. So it is going to be difficult, and the team below us, just 1 point below us at the moment, Villa, who also have 3 games in hand on us. If Southampton, if Chelsea, if Leeds win their games in hand, not Leeds actually, if Southampton and Chelsea also win their games in hand with Villa, then we go back down to 11th. So yes, it is encouraging, and I think fans are rightfully looking up rather than down now. Yes, we're only 5 points off the top 4, but there are still a lot of teams to jump and a lot of results that have to go our way before we can start getting excited about a potential top 6 finish. In terms of the Europa League, I think cup competitions are always difficult. I still think we're not the favourites. I think someone like Manchester United are probably the favourites in the Europa League. But even then, Man United have a really tough tie against Real Sociedad. I think let's just see how far we get, and if we get further and closer to the final, then maybe we can hopefully go far and get that route back into the Champions League, but also win a European trophy, because it's something that is the only thing, apart from a League Cup as well, that I've never seen Arsenal win in our lifetime. So it would be nice to win a European trophy. I mean, we've won a Cup Winners' Cup, and that doesn't really have the prestige as a Europa League. So even if the Europa League is not that prestigious itself. So hopefully we can do well in the Europa League, and everyone has a chance. So let's just hope we can do well and go forward from here. So another question from @Wayne'sWorld_20, and he asks, line up for United. Ooh, tough question. I mean, so I'm going to assume Aubameyang is not available still. So it would be Leno in goal, Cedric at right back, because I think he's justified his selection now at right back. So I think he should come in instead of Bellerin. Rob Holding and David Luiz. I think it would have to be David Luiz. Unless Pablo Mari is fit, then I would put him straight back in the team. But if he's not, and Gabriel's still not match sharp, then probably David Luiz. Tierney at left back. I'm assuming he's going to be fit. So if not, then Bellerin plays and Cedric's at left back again. Partey and Xhaka, that picks itself really. I don't think Partey will be out for this game. I think he'll be fine. It just looked like cramp and they were just being very cautious with him. And then the front four, again, I'm going to assume Smith Rowe is fit. My front four would be the same as Southampton. So Saka, Smith Rowe, Pepe, Lacazette. Now, if Smith Rowe is not fit, then that's a tricky one because I don't think Ødegaard will be available. So I think it might have to be... Willian would probably have to play, unless we play Pepe, Saka and Martinelli with Lacazette up front. But then again, I don't think that's worthwhile because I think you've got two very low-touch players in terms of Pepe and Martinelli. And you need a bit more security with the ball against Manchester United because they're obviously going to have a really good counter against us. So you need to keep possession and need to be dangerous with it. So that's my team that I would play against Manchester United. Hopefully the players that I stated will be fit and I'm assuming will be fit are fit because then it will be much more tricky if we don't have those players. It's going to be a tricky game regardless. Manchester United are in fantastic form. They are second in the league. They've just come back from a great win in the FA Cup against Liverpool. So we have a real chance to prove that this just wasn't a little upturn in form because of easier opponents. We are looking up now and hopefully we can get a big win against Manchester United. We haven't lost against Manchester United in 2 seasons in the Premier League, so hopefully we can make it 3 this weekend. So let's hope for the good one. But thank you for your question. I've got another question from @Amar_4x, and he asks, is Cedric more important to the team or should Bellerin start against Manchester United? And what about Gabriel instead of Luiz? So again, I think if Gabriel is sharp, he didn't look sharp on the weekend. I think if he's sharp, start him against Manchester United. But if he's not, it's probably Luiz. Cedric, I think, is proving his worth and now looks like maybe a first choice right back. He's played himself into the team and I'm really glad with how he's been performing offensively and defensively. Yes, he had a really bad game in terms of passing completions, but that doesn't show the whole story because he was actually really good yesterday. And it comes back to this question from @AFC Jack. Is Cedric a long-term replacement to Bellerin at right back once Tierney's fit again? And did you feel like many others, including myself, that David Luiz was awful? I think Cedric is probably not the long-term replacement for Bellerin at right back. I think he's a stopgap because I just think in terms of his age, I don't think he's going to be right back at Arsenal for the next 5 years. I think maybe the next 2 and then probably departs. It's really interesting to see what happens now. You would assume Maitland-Niles leaves and you would assume Bellerin probably has to fight for his place now with Cedric. So it is an interesting one. And I think Cedric has now played his way into the side, so hopefully Arteta will now pick him and play him at right back if Tierney is back, and hopefully Tierney is back this weekend. And the question about David Luiz, I did think David Luiz was quite poor yesterday. I think he had a few David Luiz moments. There was the one in the second half where he just let the ball run and had to be saved and by players who were much more switched on, like Rob Holding and Bernd Leno. He had a couple of moments where he passed it badly, which is obviously not a David Luiz thing. So he has these games, and I would much rather a Gabriel or a Pablo Mari start. But if he's the only option, then it's fine, because especially on the game this weekend, last season, I remember David Luiz was absolutely incredible against Manchester United at home. So hopefully we can produce more of that and not any of those 5 red cards that he got last year. But thank you for your question, and that's it in terms of all the questions and for today's podcast. So thank you again, and this podcast is now on Spotify, as I mentioned last week. So if you could leave it a favourite and a like on YouTube, a like on iTunes, a review on iTunes, it would be great. It would share the podcast around. And Arsenal are now on the up, and I'm really encouraged and happy with how they've been performing. And hopefully we can produce something special, because it's going to take something special this weekend against Manchester United. So hopefully we can produce that. But until then, come on you Gunners.
Well, it's broken Kanu's way, and De Hui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?